Namaste.
Namaste.
If you're someone who struggles with social anxiety or has a constant fear or worry about your future, you think things like, what if it's not going to work out? What if they don't like me? What if it doesn't go the way that I planned? What if things just don't work out? This video is for you because we want to help you move out of the theme of consciousness of fear.
Aloha, I'm Matt.
And I'm Ash, and we are the Yoga Couple.
We are internationally recognized holistic healers, authors of the inner work, and we're here to help you heal your inner child, face and transcend your shadows, and finally unlock a life of true freedom and lasting happiness.
On this channel, we guide you on how to heal yourself through methods like chakra rebalancing, science of mind, transpersonal psychology, and yoga philosophy.
Trust that you are divinely guided to this video.
You are exactly where you're supposed to be.
The answers are here now.
Previous themes we've talked about, like grief, are focused on regret. They're worried about what they could have done differently. They're focused on the past. But someone who is in fear is more so interested and preoccupied with an unknown future, and they're projecting the worst case scenario into the future perpetually.
So while this is a positive move in energy out of dwelling on the past, dwelling on something you literally can't change, there's now a fear or a blockage of being able to really take steps in a positive direction, because now we're over focused on what could go wrong. So it is positive in that we are now at least thinking forward rather than back, but now we have to really look at what is the root belief here behind the fear. And it really comes down to, it's very simply summed up as like, what if this goes wrong? You know, what if blank? Like it's a hyper obsession with what if, you know, just like Ash said, they don't like me, it doesn't work out, it fails, the whole world collapses, I get sick, they die, you know, it starts to project. And the reason why the mind does this, it's projecting into the future because it thinks it's protecting itself from grief. So it's trying, as our consciousness evolves, it kind of builds upon itself. So as we get some more energy, we're trying to protect from ever having to slip back into grief and loss. And so to do that, we think, well, if I just think of all the worst case scenarios first, I won't ever have to lose. But this is still not quite truth in reality, because inevitably, no matter how perfect we go about things, things still might not work out to our advantage or according to our plan. So we really want to dive into, first we'll look at what are the common thoughts, what are the root beliefs that hold this fear intact, and then we'll talk about how to get out of it.
So that preoccupation with a future unknown danger really keeps us from living, because we're so preoccupied worrying about everything that could go wrong that we don't even put ourselves into the situation or go out there and try or go out and meet the person or engage in the opportunity, because we are so doubtful that it's going to work out that we don't even try to begin with. So fear really isolates us and prevents us from living the life that we're actually wishing to have. We're trying to protect ourselves from all the loss in order to have the life we wish we could have. But in so of trying to protect ourselves, we just stop ourselves from living at all. So fear is a really isolating theme of consciousness. You might feel like you are unable to put yourself in social situations or even try to go after the thing you want to have in life, or even just silly things like I've experienced, like not being able to enjoy myself on a motorboat because I'm so afraid. What if it tips over? What if I fall out? What if, I mean,
or a motorcycle.
Yeah,
we've done that too.
Car rides.
Cars, yeah.
I mean, it can come down to the most mundane things. So the realization that we have to have is that fear is blocking us from joy, because we think we're being protected when really we're kind of creating our own hell in our own heads. We're in a constant state of anxiousness and anxiety. It's really not fun to live in a state of fear. We have to get to this conclusion. Otherwise, we're going to keep staying in it because we think it's helping us. We think it's protecting us. So if you reflect back on all the little nuances, all the moments you've had unrealistic fear, like just being in a car and nothing ended up happening, but every time you get in a car you have anxiety, maybe because you had a past experience where you have some sort of grief or regret, you did get in an accident.
Yeah, trauma and accident.
Yeah. Now moving forward, you're unable to just be at peace in your life in that same situation. So drawing yourself to the conclusion that fear is actually not really helping you. It's becoming it can be, obviously, fear can be helpful in certain situations, but we're talking about themes of consciousness. When something becomes so perpetual, it's the way you think day in and day out, and now your fear has become a vibration that you are literally living in and perceiving fear in all of your reality. And I've struggled with this one a lot. This has been one that I've had to work my way out of. And I've noticed that when I'm stuck in the theme of fear, everything becomes scary. If I'm home alone and Matt's not home, all of a sudden I'm afraid of the dark. I'm afraid of what's out there.
Going grocery shopping.
I'm afraid of social anxiety when I go grocery shopping. I'm afraid of texting or calling someone to have a conversation that might be challenging. Everything in my life turns into a reason for fear. And that's not because everything in life is scary. It's because I'm perceiving fear and danger in every corner of my life.
So to clarify real quick too, each theme has a positive use. It has a positive or realistic or rational use in our consciousness. And the biggest takeaway to take from fear, we should call it caution. So it's important to have caution, but it's a whole other thing to be consumed and living in fear. So while, yes, you still, think ahead and have foresight and think of negative things that could happen and do your best to be prepared, you just move forward with caution. You don't let the fear actually consume and control us. So that's the positive momentum here, is we don't want to be reckless anymore. No, of course not. When we're in some of the lower themes, especially like in shame, we can be behaving so recklessly and rejecting ourselves, self-sabotaging on accident, that we actually need a healthy amount of caution to really think, now wait a minute, am I bettering my life or am I damaging it? So there is a useful tool here, but we just don't want it to let it become an all-consuming theme. And then I want to, before we move into how to heal this, I want to go over real quick to the overcompensation strategy for fear. We can also become so highly overcompensating for fear that we become addicted to it, and this becomes the adrenaline junkie. This becomes the person who loves testing their limits. This becomes the person who doesn't feel alive unless they're in a state of fear or there's some like real threat to their life going on. So there's a couple different strategies, right? There's the other strategy where it can become so crippling and overwhelming and anxious, or there's the other strategy where to try to transcend our fear, we become totally preoccupied in it.
Yeah, I want to help clarify too that these strategies that Matthew's referring to are defense mechanisms that are a direct result of some sort of trauma. So somebody could have a traumatizing experience and get stuck in the theme of fear and feel like they have avoidance now to experiencing fear. They want to avoid the trauma at all costs. Someone else could have that same exact experience and come out of it with a completely different defense mechanism, which is an overcompensating defense mechanism where now they're just thriving in fear. They want to be in it all the time. They want to watch scary movies on Netflix. They want to watch things that just stimulate fear. And you might be this person, you might know these people. It's very obvious. It's the person who wants to go skydiving all the time. It's the person who wants to just go into the
speed.
They want to speed.
Yeah, they want to be a little reckless and dangerous in everyday life, little mundane moments.
And push the limits. Or like I said, watch scary horror movies. Like that's a certain type of consciousness that is attracted to the adrenaline and the sensation that comes from that. It can be, and I want to say this too, the opposite person, so the avoidant, the one who's afraid of fear, instead of being attracted to horror movies that like get them in it, they'll be attracted to the news or conspiracy documentaries, which I've experienced conspiracy documentaries, because that's helping them avoid the trauma or the fear that could happen by informing themselves of all the danger. So they become overly informed of what to be afraid of, or they become research addiction. They want to research everything on the internet and look everything up and know about everything that's going on.
Know all the dangers.
Because they're trying to avoid. So you have avoidance strategy, which is obviously avoiding, and then you have overcompensating, which is like, put me in it.
I'll prove that I don't have an issue here. I prove that I conquered fear.
I'm going to jump out of the plane, all this stuff. I live on it. I thrill on it. And then they become fear junkies.
Right. So those are the manifestations, and everything, we might be somewhere in between. We might be somewhere in the range of that because it's a spectrum. And so we all have different coping strategies for how we went about it. When I was processing a lot of my fear, I was more of the overcompensating. I needed to prove that it had no control over me. And so we all are going to have different versions. Ashley's more avoidant, mine's more overcompensating. But now we want to focus, how do you get through fear?
When we rebel against a certain theme, like let's say it was shame, the overcompensating person in shame can become a narcissist. We think that by overcompensating for that theme, we're out of it, or guilt. Let's say you're someone who grew up in a really strict religion and you spend your whole life now proving the religion wrong.
Or proving, the imperfections.
Right. You think that you're out of guilt because you've overcompensated now, but now you're just spending all your time still on the same theme, just with a different angle. And so rebelling against the theme isn't healing the theme. Healing the theme is being completely liberated and beyond it, and it not having
a push or a pull.
Or any place in your life. So it's really important, because the overcompensating strategies for every single one of these themes, the person will usually not think that they're in that theme anymore because they're rebelling against it, but they're actually still in it. They're just in it in a different form. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so now moving through this, how do we move past it into the next higher theme of energy? Again, there's always the option to catapult ourselves into higher themes, but assuming we're going to just kind of learn and mature in a progression here, the next theme that's next is to move into less focus on what if this goes wrong and focus on what if this goes right. This moves us into desire. What if I get what I want? What if it works out? What if I go hang out with the people and they like me? What if I try the relationship and I try to love again and they love me back? Like, what if I get what I want? And what if this future that I can't predict actually isn't scary, but in fact is desirous? So that is the switch in our belief system that has to happen. Is if I don't know the future, my mind is ultimately making it up in both cases. If it projects to a future positive or it projects to a future negative, in both situations, it's all in my head. So the real question comes down to, how does it make me feel? If I think, what if all of this goes wrong? Wow, that's really scary. It feels really lower energy. It's holding me back. But if I think, what if it goes right? I have some energy there. I have some movement. I have some desire, or some ability to now get myself moving. So desire is now going to stimulate us to take action. It's going to stimulate us to be like, my desire for it to work is stronger than my desire that it might fail. Do you see? Like, my worry that it might fail. So the desire is going to trump the fear. So for someone trying to get out of fear, like say Ashley, the desire to want to be at peace in the car ride, the desire to want to be able to go to the grocery store in like confidently, the desire to want to have a loving, deep relationship without any fears, right? The desire had to trump her concerns, and likewise my own.
So this actually is a really practical step. It's actually embodied. It's a tangible, embodied practice that you have to start actually doing. So what happens is you're faced with a situation that will stimulate and trigger the fear to want to surface again. You start thinking, what if? You have to have awareness in that moment. You need to become aware that you're even doing that. If you're not aware that you're doing that, you follow it down the rabbit hole, you believe everything you think, and you're in it. You're in the fear has completely consumed you. You have solidified your theme of consciousness. The only way out of every single one of these themes of consciousness is to become aware when they're happening, when they're triggered. So when you have fear arise, instead of indulging in the fear, become aware that you are afraid and ask yourself to become super hyper present with that fear. And the way you can do this is by feeling where the fear is in your body. So is it in your chest? Is it in your breathing? Is it in your stomach? For me, it's in my third chakra, my solar plexus. There gets a really big knot there. I feel so much anxiety. It's to start to feel where the fear is and actually be present with the bodily sensation rather than the thought processing. And that is because it gets you to shift out of perpetual thinking and into the present moment. And it's only when we are in the present moment, when we're still, that we can have the space to consciously choose from a place of freedom. Otherwise, we are on autopilot. We actually don't have a choice when we're on autopilot. We are just processing and listening to the computer mind, which is giving us an experience. So by taking ourselves out of the mind and focusing on the feeling in the body, we're shifting from autopilot to presence. And from a place of presence awareness, we can choose a different thought. And so in that moment, when you're feeling it in your body, all you have to do is slow down your breathing, be present with the feeling, and when you feel calm enough and still enough and quiet enough, basically this is going to quiet the mind from, what if this goes wrong? What if that? What if? It's going to start to slow down, and you're going to get really present with how you feel in your body. And when you feel ready, you can say, I'm going to choose differently. And you get to choose again, and you're going to say, what if? And you can start asking yourself the good questions. What if it works out? What if it goes right? What if I'm safe? And start to imagine, just like you do in your head when it goes wrong, invite yourself to imagine in the opposite direction, what if it goes right? So I actually have two very specific experiences with this. One was when I was home alone in this beautiful holiday in Hawaii, which I've dreamed about living here forever, but I was home alone and I had all those fears come up about being home alone. What if there's negative spirits, or what if there's someone who's gonna rob me or come on the property?
Yeah, or rape you or kill you, like more serious.
I did have those thoughts, thank you. So I had all those fears come up, and I did the whole process, feeling it in my body, breathing, yada, yada, yada. Eventually got to a place of stillness. And then I started to envision, well, what if I'm actually safe and I'm in this gorgeous heaven on earth place in my sanctuary? And I started to envision this place I used to dream about a long time ago, living here. I'm actually here now. But my theme of consciousness of fear was stopping me from even experiencing and seeing it, even though I'm actually in this life already. And that's how themes of consciousness work. You can change your environment, you can change the situation, but if you don't change your consciousness, you'll still feel the same no matter where you are. And I did get to a point of asking myself, what if I'm safe? What if this is a sanctuary? What if I have a beautiful night of just beauty and sacredness and reverence and security and love? And my whole night went differently, but I had to consciously go through that shift. And the other experience was on a boat with Matthew's family. I'm always afraid when I'm on the boat. I can't even let myself enjoy the sunny day on the lake because I'm so afraid, because I've been in so many car crashes. I've actually been ran over by a jet ski before. So I can't even let myself be enjoying of the day. And so I did this conscious experience to where eventually I was able to sit on the front of the boat and like put my hands back behind my head and just look up at the sky.
Used to terrify her because it's like lifted and all that, and you feel the bumps, and it was.
And I always think I'm gonna get thrown out.
She's usually like curled, hanging onto the handle, like death grip.
Everybody else is having fun; they're so happy, and I'm over here thinking I'm gonna die. And it's not the experience; it's the theme of consciousness. And when I did this work and started to relax, feel it in my body, do the what if it's amazing, what if this is a beautiful day, what if like this is a great experience, let myself enjoy it. I was actually able to have that switch, and nothing in my environment changed. The only thing that changed was inside of me. I had to open my eyes to move into wanting something better, wanting joy for myself.
Absolutely. So this is a really good way to get out of fear, because fear is all a future projection. So by coming into the present, you're already taking a lot of power back and getting out of your head, and then doing this process of focusing on what do you want. And this will move you into the next theme. And as you do this more and more and more, you'll get more rooted into that desire and be focusing more so on what you do want in life. And that moves you into the next theme.
So all of these themes of consciousness that we've been talking about are all here in our book, The Inner Work. And we have the scale of consciousness in here. And every single one of these themes, including fear, have a segment in the book. And it tells you the trigger, the root program, like what has happened, what traumas, experiences might have caused you to get stuck in there, and what you need to do to get out of it. And the transcendence out of fear is the new narrative of what if it goes right. And you can think things like anything is possible, the mind can't know the future, what if it does go right, what if it all works out, what if they love me, what if I can do it, what if it goes even better than I imagined, what if I can trust them, what if people support me. It goes on and on and on. And so you can order this book by clicking the link down below. It's available on Amazon. And yeah, we support you in transcending fear and moving into higher vibrations of love and joy and freedom so that you can experience the life that you truly desire.
Namaste.
Namaste.